Will France get a functional government? As predicted after the shock election victory of the French left, leaders are now fumbling attempts to form a government. The appointment of conservative Michel Barnier as prime minister has outraged many voters. But what choices does President Emmanuel Macron really have? I'm Andrea Sankey, and today's Newsmaker is France. Well, French politics have never been known for their simplicity, but right now, watching elected leaders in Paris stumble to form some kind of working government has left almost everyone up in arms. In July, left-wing parties formed a surprise coalition, blocking the far right's path to victory. But with President Macron seemingly catering to the National Rally's desire for conservative leadership, he's now appointed Michel Barnier as prime minister, infuriating the leftist coalition that was supposed to lead. So is Emmanuel Macron sidelining democracy or choosing the only options available to maintain stability? That debate in a moment, but first, a look at what could be next for France.
More than 100,000 people flooded the streets of France on Saturday, protesting the appointment of Michel Barnier as prime minister. He takes office amidst outrage from the left-wing New Popular Front coalition, which won the largest number of seats in the recent election, but found itself outmaneuvered by Macron and the right-wing Republicans.
What we have here is an absolutely incredible democratic hold-up. It's the left that won the elections, and it's the right that is governing. The French are demanding change, expressing it massively at the ballot box. And in the end, we have a pure and simple continuation of the policies pursued by Macron for the last 7 years now.
The left-wing bloc, led by figures like Jean-Luc has been vocal in its opposition, accusing Macron of striking a political deal with the right-wing Republicans and the far-right National Rally to install Barnier. His task of forming a government will be no easy feat with no majority in the National Assembly.
We do not believe that for 1 second there will be a majority in the National Assembly willing to accept such a denial of democracy. And I don't want to believe that the French people could accept being treated in this way in the eyes of the world. They vote one way, and someone chooses in a different way a prime minister who does not correspond to the result of the election.
Barnier's immediate challenge is a no-confidence vote, expected as soon as he steps into parliament. The left-wing opposition is determined to bring his government down. But Barnier may have some breathing room, as the far-right National Rally has signaled it may not automatically vote against him. Barnier is no stranger to high-stakes negotiations. He played the role of the EU's chief negotiator of Brexit. But now back home, he faces an equally daunting challenge: uniting a fractured parliament, passing a national budget by October, and addressing key issues like public services, immigration, and national security. His moderate right-wing position puts him at odds with the far left and the far right in France's polarized political environment. Despite his extensive experience, many fear his appointment may be a return to old politics rather than the fresh start many French voters hoped for.
If he is the new frontman for Macronism and continues the policy led by Emmanuel Macron, which was severely sanctioned at the ballot box last July, then this government will fall.
The left-wing bloc, despite internal divisions, remains resolute. It's already begun preparing strategies to sabotage the new government, starting with the no-confidence vote and likely launching aggressive campaigns to block Barnier's key policy initiatives, especially his 2025 budget proposal. He said right after taking office that he would listen to all parties on the political spectrum.
Finally, we will need a lot of listening, a lot of respect. First of all, respect between the government and parliament, respect for all political forces. I emphasize all the political forces represented there, and I'm going to get to work immediately.
The coming weeks will test whether he can unite the country or his government will collapse under the weight of opposition.
So, will stability be found, or is France set for a government collapse? Joining me now to debate what could be to come are from Paris, political analyst Yasser Louati. Also in the French capital, National Rally Party representative Marianna Rocher. And in London, professor of French and European politics at University College London, Philippe Marlière. Thanks all so much for being with me. So, for now, France has a prime minister that Emmanuel Macron seems to see as a compromise. Michel Barnier was not exactly what the National Rally wanted, but it definitely is not what the left wanted. So, Philippe, can Michel Barnier hold up, and should he, if he's seen by the left as an undemocratic appointment by a loser in this election?
Well, these are early days, simply because Barnier was appointed this week, but he hasn't formed a government yet. So I think we're still waiting for the announcement of a government. I think the government will comprise members of Macron's party as well as members of Michel Barnier's party. And I think there won't be any surprise, probably one or two personalities coming from the center-left or formerly from the center-left, such as former Prime Minister Manuel Valls, but I don't expect anyone from the left at this time to join the government. So yes, of course, I think it's early days in a sense. We don't know. We know that the left will very probably table a motion of no confidence. The big issue will be whether National Rally, the other bloc in the National Assembly, will vote for this motion of no confidence. I think it seems that there's been an agreement between Macron and the National Rally, and for the time being, National Rally will not vote together with the left a motion of no confidence, which means that the government will be formed and will be given a run. How long will it last? I don't know. I suppose it would last a few months.
Okay. Let me ask Marianna. I mean, Michel Barnier was not someone that your party actually recommended, but is he a good enough compromise for now? Do you think he would pass, for example, a no-confidence vote?
Listen, the appointment of Michel Barnier as a prime minister allows for unlocking of the institution, okay? Macron consulted several times Marine Le Pen and proposed other three candidates, which not passed, which were rejected. And this regard, Rassemblement National takes a constructive stance, but in no way that we are giving to Michel Barnier chèque en blanc, okay? A check, blank check. He will be under the surveillance. We will judge him based on the three criteria. Respect for our 11 millions of voters, the implementation of a proportional voting system, and of course, we are waiting from him the sign regarding the amelioration of the purchasing power of French and the immigration issues.
Okay, let me ask Yasser. I mean, we have a left that is very unhappy, a right that has some criteria to give him a quote-unquote chance. Where do you see this going?
Michel Barnier represents exactly what millions of voters for the National Rally voted against: a technocrat, in the words of the National Rally, a globalist, in the words of Jean-Philippe Tanguy, an elected official from the National Rally, the most stupid politician of the Fifth Republic. And that's the person Marine Le Pen has green-lighted to become prime minister. The second point is that the situation is very peculiar. The party Les Républicains arrived last. They actually lost almost a dozen MPs. They split in half. The National Rally arrived second, and the left arrived first. Yet Emmanuel Macron, in order to make sure his policies are pursued, designates Michel Barnier, who is 73 years old and who himself contributed in stealing the election from French people in 2005, when the overwhelming majority voted against the referendum for a European constitution back in 2005. And yet again, in 2024, he is the prime minister being designated by Emmanuel Macron in order, in the words of Mélenchon, to steal the election again from the French, because he comes from the losing party. The only solution I can see, or where this is heading so far, is that there will only be negotiations bill by bill, meaning that there wouldn't be an absolute majority for Barnier to govern. But the French political tradition is not very fond of these coalitions based on one bill after another. The last time we did that was back in the late 19th century under the Third Republic. And unfortunately, the National Rally that posed as an opposition to Emmanuel Macron is now working hand in hand with it to steal the election from at least 20 million people who voted against Macron, his party, and his policies.
Okay, so bill by bill, which you said hasn't really worked. I mean, are you looking at a government collapse then? Is that effectively what you see in the future, Yasser?
It's so honestly, so far, we don't know yet. It's going to be difficult for Barnier to constitute a government. Philippe just said before me that he might get a run to form a government, but the next deadline is the voting of the budget. Now, the budget is a cornerstone of the National Assembly votes. Will the right and the far right coalesce with Macron to vote an austerity-based budget? That's exactly what Michel Barnier is notorious for. And will the left be able not only to put forward a motion of non-confidence, but also to support voters from Macron's party who would say, we do not want to work with the far right?
Okay. Let me come back to Philippe, because for those who actually support Michel Barnier in this role, they say he's a seasoned negotiator who actually understands compromise, and that could be really what's needed here. What's wrong with that?
Yes, probably Barnier was one of the rare figures that Macron could actually appoint for the role, which is a very difficult task because there's no majority. Even the Macronites plus the Republicans, the Conservative Party members, there's no majority. So it will be a minority government if there's a government. So Barnier, exactly because he is very much in agreement when it comes to the economic policies, as well as the vision. You know, in Europe, Macron and Barnier will think the same. I think for Macron, it is absolutely a good pick because he won't have to work alongside a prime minister who is hostile to his own track record and policies. So I expect in that sense it is a good choice for Macron. The issue is more now outside of that minority coalition. How will they react? The left bloc and National Rally. Just a point about National Rally. I'm not so sure there is such a discrepancy on the economic side of the argument between what Marine Le Pen, Jordan Bardella want and what Barnier Macron want. National Rally has sort of pledged a lot of things, notably to cater to its more working class electorate. For instance, just one example, they claim that they would abolish the pension reform and get back to the age of retirement at 60. They have backtracked on that since now. Now it's 62, and if elected, they even said, well, maybe that's not a priority because of the public debt. So they're used to talking the talk, but not walk the walk. So for the time being, I think it's in the interest of National Rally to apply some political blackmail, so to speak, try to get some legislation passed which will sort of meet that would be of interest to them. And then at some point, of course, vote a motion of no confidence when the government has become too unpopular.
So let me ask Marianna about that then. I mean, is this about political blackmail on behalf of the National Rally? And is there also potentially a vision for the National Rally to enter some kind of power-sharing agreement with Macron, or would that not be settled on either? Go ahead.
There are no agreements with Macron, and anyway, we will censor the government of Michel Barnier if he doesn't respect our voters. We will survey all the measures, and of course, regarding the pension reform, we will. My answer is no. 89% of French are against of this reform. Okay, we have to hear the people, what they want, the people. And on the October 31st, during our parliamentary session, in Assemblée Nationale with Marine Le Pen, we will propose the repeal of this unjust reform.
Yasser, I saw something made you laugh there. What was that?
That Marine Le Pen did not greenlight the nomination of Michel Barnier. I mean, let's take the facts and be serious for a second. First, we have the revelations that Thierry Soler, the most indicted politician under the Fifth Republic, had a dinner with Marine Le Pen or Jordan Bardella in order to agree on some nomination for the position of prime minister. If you take a look at how Marine Le Pen reacted when the New Popular Front chose Lucie Castet as their prime minister, she said they would immediately vote against her and bring down the government through a motion of no confidence. Yet, when Michel Barnier was designated, the whole national rally, except Jean-Philippe Tanguy, who lambasted Barnier, then backtracked because he was corrected by Marine Le Pen, they all said he's under surveillance and we shall see how he acts. Therefore implying that there was a tacit agreement between Marine Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron to keep the left away from Matignon, the siege of the prime minister, and to have Michel Barnier, who on identity and immigration issues does agree with the far right. Therefore, Marine Le Pen is not that opposed to Emmanuel Macron, and we will see more and more collaboration between the two. And I think the word blackmailing does apply because, again, Barnier has no majority, neither does Macron. And that is why it is difficult to take the National Rally seriously when they say, we want to hear and serve the people. The people voted against Macron, and the National Rally is working with him to keep the vote of the people away.
Marianna, is that true?
It's not true. Really, it's not true because in the second turn of the voting, Macron made the coalition with New Front Populaire, okay, to block Rassemblement National. It's always blocking Rassemblement National. Rassemblement National. Yeah, coalition.
No,
Macron
it's a Republican front
new...
to keep your party away, madam. Please be precise.
Listen, I know what's going on.
Let me just ask
Anyway.
Philippe quickly, if I can. I'm sorry, Philippe, is Yasser right in a sense that almost everyone here is being duplicitous on some level?
Well, I think there are two things going on here. First of all, there was a reference made to the election itself, where actually, yes, there was lots of tactical voting to keep a national rally away from power, to defeat it. And it succeeded beyond all expectations, by the way, because after the first round, National Rally was on course to win the election altogether. So it succeeded. But who started it? I think it's essentially the left, but it's essentially an act of voters. It's 2/3 of French voters didn't want National Rally to be elected. So that's the first thing. The second thing, having been defeated, Macron has created a political conundrum. And the political conundrum is very clear why there is one. No one has an absolute majority. Whatever the political scenario is in the National Assembly, no bloc or no coalition can get a majority. That's why he had to pick up Barnier. It wasn't his first choice, but probably for him that's a choice which is acceptable. And he's now under the surveillance of a National Rally. I agree with that. It's just because it's the situation which makes it this way. And National Rally now, although defeated last July, has had his hand strengthened by the whole situation. Because yes, it takes a motion of no confidence of the left, which would be voted by a National Rally for the Barnier government to fall. So it is actually a situation in which National Rally and Macron have a kind of tacit agreement. I'm not saying it's an explicit one. It's a tacit agreement. And the blackmail comes in at this stage.
It all seems very cynical. But Marianne, I can come back to you because, as Philippe was saying there, I mean, 2/3 of the voters did not want the National Rally to win. They did not want your party leading. Still, Marine Le Pen says our victory here has only been delayed. We're only just waiting. So Do you see that still unfolding? Is there even a time scale for when you think the National Rally will eventually maneuver its way into the lead position?
Listen, we are first opposition party with 146 deputy. Okay, the majority. Only one party was 146 deputy. If we speak about Front Populaire, 193 deputy, but it's a coalition. Front Populaire. It's there are Mélenchon, there are socialists, and other parties inside. Okay, we represent 11 million of voters. Okay, we represent 35% of voters. We gain in European Parliament in our third group, the Patriots for Europe, represented by Jordan Bardella, and 146 deputies in Assemblée Nationale, represented by Marine Le Pen. Why you are saying that, well, the 2/3, they don't want Rassemblement National? If there are no second turn, like in Italy, for example, in Italy, the system more democratic, okay? There are no second turn, and they not make barrage like always to Rassemblement National. Jordan Bardella, now at this moment we're speaking, was already the prime minister, and we didn't have this chaos in the country. We didn't have all this demonstration, all this meeting, all this protest right now, because we want the security, we want to reduce immigration.
Why hasn't Marine Le Pen told Macron we don't want Michel Barnier, and they still accepted the archetype of what the voters you say you represent voted against? Michel Barnier represents everything your voters despise. Yet you went and worked with Macron to put him in power.
2 months without any governments.
It's political
normal.
compromise.
We accepted someone which,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what politicians
that
have to do. They have to compromise. But I'll tell
we
you
will censure his government if he will not do the right reform, and he will not do the right way. We will censor. It will not pass, and in 1 year it will be dissolution again of the Assemblée Nationale.
Okay, so Yasser, let me ask you this then. I mean, beyond what will happen politically, what about what will happen with the public? Are we on track to see more destabilizing protests?
I mean, I saw a picture that was quite revealing of the mood. I saw an elderly woman, about in her maybe 60s, literally burning her electoral card, saying, I voted again and again. I mobilized myself, my family, everybody around me to vote first and second round. And here we are being laughed at by and despised by Emmanuel Macron. This is a terrible message being sent by the president himself. There was a paper in Le Monde that came about 2 weeks ago, and the title was quite revealing. He pretended to be the master of time, and he ended up watching helplessly the situation unfold. So my fear is that this further discredits our political representatives. It further weakens our institutions, because the president can call for a snap election, be unhappy with the result, and go around the vote and designate a person nobody initially wanted. And further, this will only nurture the radical and extremist ideologies in that democracy is a hoax, it does not work, and that somehow other means of reaching power should be used. So honestly, Emmanuel Macron is literally playing with fire with his cynicism to many has become unacceptable.
Okay, Yasser Louati, that will unfortunately have to be the final word for this edition of the Newsmakers, because we are completely out of time. So I'd like to thank sincerely all three of my panelists so much for being with us. Great to have you all, and our viewers, of course, for joining us as well. Remember, you can follow us on X, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.